Hello everyone. Today we're going to learn about 3 ways to take the emotion out of your recruiting for your cleaning business. Hello everyone. My name is Dom Williams, founder and CEO of HireWho and founder and CEO of CNC Cleaning Services. 10 years ago, I went out to start a cleaning service directly out of high school right here in central Indiana. Over hiring hundreds of people and growing my cleaning company to, 7 figures every year, I soon realized that recruiting was going to be my biggest struggle, just like lots of you here. With that being said, today we're going to dive into 3 tips that I've learned over the years to truly take the emotion out of my recruiting process. Let's get started. All right, so number 1, understanding your ideal candidate. Knowing this prior to the interview. So have you ever, caught yourself, after completing the interview process, or maybe someone else in your office asking yourself, I don't really know about that person, I don't know if this person would be a good fit, or, should we take a risk on them? Should we take a flight on them? And it's always that guessing moment, right? Now here's what I'll tell you. Hiring is guessing, right? And that's one of the things to know throughout this whole video that we're going to talk about today. You're not going to leave here knowing which candidates you should hire and that you're just going to be, a golden recruiter after this, okay? Every single cleaning business that you know or that you don't know is experiencing these same issues. Matter of fact, guys, any cleaning service, even if you're not a cleaning service, are experiencing these same issues. So the first thing we want to do before ever, conducting interviews, before ever, pushing those job ads to all those platforms, let's truly figure out what your ideal candidate looks like, right? One of the ways to do this is let's look at your current employee base, right? So what I would recommend that you do is take a list of all your employees. So let's just say you have 10 current employees. And let's say out of those 10 employees, you have 3 what you consider A players. Those people that show up to work, they make the clients really happy. They just have an awesome personality. They might have a little bit of experience, or they've been working for you for a year to 2 years. Figure out what are those things about the ideal candidate that work for your company. So I'm just going to give you a couple of mine from my cleaning company, CNC Cleaning. So one of the things that we noticed about a lot of our ideal candidates is they actually only want to work 3 to 4 days a week. Now, obviously, that's not something that we loved at first, but we started to realize who are our most happiest employees and why are they so damn happy? And one of the things that we noticed is a lot of those individuals have a break in the middle of the week, or they're only working Monday through Thursday, and it makes them more of an awesome employee. Have not figured it out exactly the reason why, but there's a trend of that within our organization. So, what else is about them? Are they, college students? Are they people that have prior education? Do they have experience? So make a list of what your ideal candidate looks like, okay? And you want to have all of this documented prior to the interview. And, this is a standard practice. And one of the things that you could do is create an interview guide, right? So when you're going through that interview process, not only are you asking detailed questions and, asking, similar questions with every applicant and every interview that you go through, you're grading all of those interview answers that they're responding to, and you're giving it a score. Right? So once that interview is completed, you're able to go back through and see, okay, is this person, at 85% or a 90%, whatever the score, whatever that passing score is that you set prior to those interviews. But the good thing is you set those expectations prior to that interview. So now there's no guessing work done at the end of it. Now, keep in mind, like I said prior, right? You're never going to know, whether or not you're making the best decision. But what you can do is you can have a very systemized process, have a very detailed interview guide that has, all the questions that you're going to ask in that interview, and your ideal responses. And then at the end of the interview, you can grade them on how well that interview went, right? You can look at those criteria. Do they have a driver's license? Great. That's a point, right? Do they have previous experience? Great. That's another point, right? Are they likable, right? I mean, that's a huge thing to work for any of my companies. Are you likable? Am I going to like working with you day in and day out? That's a huge thing that we forget, right? And the way to take the emotion out of this process, one, you're going to take the emotion out by preparing prior to that interview. But the other thing that you can do is you can actually automate all of this. A lot of these things can happen prior to scheduling an interview, right? If you have the proper systems and tools in place, whether that's a form on your website or whether you're using an applicant tracking system, no matter what it is, you can automate this process to where a platform is grading all of those answers for you and then setting up those interviews for you, okay? And they're just handing you those ideal candidates that you've described for your cleaning business, okay? So that's number one. I would say automations. Oh my gosh, I love automating processes within my small business, especially the recruiting process. What I'm about to show you is the step-by-step guide on how I automate the recruiting process within my cleaning business, right? Now, guys, just a little bit more of a backstory is we've got about, 40 employees. We do residential and commercial. So there's times that we're hiring, full-time people, and there's some times where we're hiring, a part-time employee that may work 1 or 2 days because they're assigned a business, a business account. So we have a very huge range of the type of individuals that we hire for and recruit for, and we use this process for all of those. So I'm going to show you which steps in our process are automated, which steps someone has to kind of step in and take over. And we do all of this directly within HireWho, our applicant tracking system. Now, what I would like to preface this with is you do not have to use HireWho to do this. There's other applicant tracking systems out there that are amazing. And more importantly, there's other tools that you can, put together to do this on your own without using, one software that does it all for you. And actually, I'm going to share those with you at the end of the video to where you could actually create this on your own without actually using our platform. So first things first. So first thing that we do is we publish to the job boards, right? So once you have an account with HireWho, you can actually create your jobs on our platform, and they will be automatically pushed to Indeed, Facebook, Google Jobs, ZipRecruiter, Monster. We recently integrated with them, and quite a few others. And the list goes on, and we're constantly building up those job boards to be, directly integrated with our platform. So first things first, we'll publish those to the job boards. Another really cool thing that we do in this stage is we actually automate that even a step further, because if you have not noticed, when you post a job on Indeed or you post a job on Facebook, after about 30 days, the job actually deactivates itself. Truly, after a week or two, you're not actually getting the same amount of applicants that you were getting when you first posted it. So there's a way in our platform to where you can set an automation to where when that job deactivates, it automatically creates another job and repost it on those job forums. That way, you're always recruiting, because one of the names, the name of the game is always be recruiting, right? You never should stop this process. Don't just start recruiting when you need someone. Always be in the method of recruiting even when you have someone. A lot of people go even a step further, which you'll see on my career page, which I'll share with you guys, is that recruit for every position in your company, even if it means your position. So we automate that process, and that's why we have that A there. So the second stage in our recruiting process is the application. So, this is completed via the career site. So, the applicant will go to our career site, and they'll get there no matter which platform they go to. If they apply on Facebook, they're going to eventually land on our career page. If they go to Indeed, they're going to eventually land on our career page. And it's important to make sure that your career page is something that appeals them, something that attracts them. You know, why should they work for you? Put a nice fancy video up there of your current employees explaining why you're such a great employer to work for. I'll show you exactly how this happens, okay? And that happens with an amazing job ad, an amazing job ad. So that's automated, right? Because when you publish that job, on there, it's automatically going to push to those job boards, but it'll also automatically push that career site too. Third, now we're going to screen and filter that applicant. So once they've completed that application, we're going to ask that applicant those required knockout questions. What do those questions look like, right? Do they have a valid driver's license? Okay. Do they have their own vehicle that's going to be reliable, right? All of those, ideal candidate questions that you're looking for, right? We're taking the emotion out of it. In this stage, they're either going to pass or fail this stage. There's no in between, right? Now you can make it in between, but guess what? Emotion gets involved, right? But either it's a pass or fail. If they pass it, they're going to move on to the next stage. If they're declined, we're going to go ahead and send them an automated, text message or an automated email that just says, hey, thanks for applying, better luck next time. Now, obviously, it says something a little bit different than that, but just to keep it short, that's what we do there. And there's no emotion tied to that screening and filtering process because there's just no need for it at that point. So the next stage is the assessment. And what we do is we create a personalized assessment to get even more in-depth insight on that applicant, right? We're going to ask them some scenario questions. We're going to ask them, what their favorite color is. No, I'm just joking, right? We're not going to ask those things, but we're going to ask them, more in-depth questions to see if this job is a really good fit for them, right? What makes them have a bad day? Is it staying over late to a cleaning client? Is it, waking up with, a flat tire or, what are those questions, what makes them have a bad day? And you can actually judge those answers and grade those answers based on, the answer that you're truly looking for. So what we do is we create, about 10 to 15 questions, a 10 to 15 assessment test, right? That's what we call it. And as long as they get an 85% or higher, they actually get to move on to the next stage in our process. Now, if they don't get an 85% or higher, we actually stop them there in our process. Now, here's the thing. You, as the business owner, you can go in and say, okay, if they don't get an 85% or higher, we're going to pause them there, and we're going to then go in and manually review that applicant to see if we still want to potentially bring them in for an in-person interview. Or what we could do is we could decline them and just keep moving forward. Now, for our business, we decline them and we keep moving forward to the other applicants. Because at the end of the day, we're always going to have that data. We can always pull that back up and see whether or not, there was some, flaw in the system, or, there was just a question that they didn't answer correctly that maybe they glitched on. So let's say they get an 85% or higher and they move on to the next step. The next step is we actually automatically send them a text message and an email that starts the conversation. So, years ago, when I was not using an applicant tracking system, I was just posting my job ads on Indeed directly, posting them on, Facebook directly and Google directly and ZipRecruiter directly. One of the things I noticed would happen is I would get all of these applications and it would take me hours. I mean, hours, like real time, because time is money. So real time to reach out to all of these applicants and just for them not to answer the phone, right? And if you're still doing that, one, there's a lot of emotion attached to your hiring process, right? If you're still picking up the phone and you're calling every single applicant, there's so much emotion tied to it, because now you're leaving a voicemail because you feel obligated to, because we all want to be professionals, right? And you're doing it in times where people just may not be available to talk. It's 2021. A lot of people are okay with a text message and or an email. So what we do is we send them this automatically that instantly engages in conversation. And we normally ask them 2 questions. We say, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, which, guys, the whole tell us about yourself is one of the best questions you can ask any applicant. You know, when you start an interview, that's one of the questions I always ask. Hey, tell me about yourself. We get so much information just by that, because at the end of the day, it's an open-ended question. There's no right or wrong answer to that question. You get so much information. So we say, hey, tell us about yourself and why you applied to work for CNC Cleaning Services. So we ask those 2 questions. And again, we do it automatically, right? We do that automatically. So once they've passed all of these steps in the process, they will receive that, okay? The next thing that we do is we review those responses. We look for keywords. You know, we look for, hey, we look for some of the answers of why they applied for our cleaning services. And we look for a lot of those keywords that are within our job ad, right? We talk a lot about in our job ad that we're family oriented and that we have flexibility. We have decent pay. We provide company cars. So we're looking for them to kind of respond exactly back what, our job ad is promoting, what we're marketing, right? And then also, we're looking for words like family, integrity, things like that, because those are our core values. So if they say, hey, the reason why I applied and, the reason, that, I'm a good fit for your company is because I have integrity. I love the family concept and things like that. Those are some of the responses that we're looking for, and our system will automatically review those and move you to the next step. The next step in our hiring process is now we're going to send you an interview invite. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you a text message and an email inviting you to an interview, right? And again, all of this is automated, 100% automated. We're going to send them our availability. It's going to pop up your calendar, and they're going to be able to schedule an interview with you. And once they do that, they're going to get details about that interview. Hey, this is where you need to show up at, show up early. This is what you can come with. And all of this is customizable for your business. But for our cleaning business, what we do is we say, hey, here's the address you need to move up, you need to meet at. We do not accept any late interviews, so please arrive on time. Just come as you are, and, we look forward to meeting you. So that's what we do. And then as you see, all of that's automated because we have that A there. But the next step is now you have to conduct that interview in person, right? Now, for us, we can't automate this. We don't do this Zoom. Our company doesn't. I know a lot of cleaning services that are doing Zoom interviews, and those are great if that works for your business. We're doing in-person interviews, and they'll come to our office. Our HR manager will then step in at that point. They'll do the in-person interview. They'll complete the the interview guides that we talked about in the first step of getting rid of the emotion, and from there we'll do the background check, which we do directly within our platform. And if they don't do it in 2 days, it actually expires, so they fall out of our process. And we've had people fall out of our process because they don't fill out the background check within 2 days. And a lot of times what, we'll think is, oh my gosh, they didn't see it or whatever. No, they saw it. Okay. We sent it via text message. We sent it via email. We set the expectation in the interview that, hey, if we're interested in you, we're going to send you this background check. Okay. So if they don't respond to that background check, be happy that you didn't waste the money on it. Be happy that you didn't waste any more time pushing them through your process and that they fell out at that time before you've wasted any time into it. After they fill out the background check, if they do, they pass that, then we send out them a job offer, and then we actually start the onboarding process, which is a whole nother stage of the game, right? But this is my recruiting process, okay, in 10 steps, and 7 of those steps are completely automated, okay? Stay tuned, because after the 3rd step, we're going to chat about exactly how you can do this, whether it's with our platform or whether you want to do it with other platforms, or if you want to just build it yourself for free. So stay tuned. Number 3, be open to feedback. So we say this all the time, right? One of the things I know that, I used to do in my cleaning company is we always talked about, we have an open door policy. We have, we're open to receiving feedback. and things like that. But when it came down to it, we did not make it easy for our staff to do that. We didn't make it, what I would like to say, awkwardless. I don't even know if that's a real word, but how do you make it easy for your staff to provide feedback to you, the other managers, the overall company, without making it so awkward for them? I mean, that's a real thing, right? There's a couple ways to do it. One of the things that I would recommend is be sure that you are looking for consistent, open feedback from all of your staff, and you're giving them the opportunity to do so. You can do, there's a payroll company, Gusto. They actually do that directly within their platform. If you're on the right account, you can use an application called SurveyMonkey and create, monthly surveys that you send out to all of your staff on a consistent basis. But I really recommend that you do this on an either monthly basis or a quarterly basis, and you're consistent with that every single time. And make sure that you're promoting, like, hey guys, we got our monthly feedback going out, or our quarterly, feedback survey going out. The other thing that you can do, if you don't want to use any software, or you just want to just get started immediately, create a box, right? In our office, we have this really fancy glitterly blue box that just says, hey, if you have feedback, comments, concerns, or anything, just drop it in the box. You want to put your name on it? Cool. If not, no big deal. And we're going to look at those and, make changes along the way. The other cool tip is exit interviews, right? That's a very key, critical, process of your hiring, right? If you've noticed a lot of people are quitting your company, or if you noticed a lot of people don't last long, they don't last longer than a week or two, make sure that you're conducting those exit interviews to ensure, and get details on why people are leaving your company, why people are leaving your organization. What are the reasons, right? And it's not just because they moved out of the area. It's not because, they found a better job. People will stay where they love working at, regardless if the pay is, a little bit less than the competition or another business. So, conduct those exit interviews. And, there's hundreds of, templates out there on exit interviews that you can, you can find and curate for your business. What I truly recommend, though, is whatever, feedback you're getting, kind of populate some of those questions towards that to uncover other details, right? Is it your schedule? Is it the pay? Figure out those reasons on why people are exiting your company. And even better, automate that, right? Because one of the things that we know is, when you have a human doing those exit interviews, sometimes, it'll get lost in the sauce, right? Sometimes people leave us without a notice. Sometimes they just don't show up at all. So you can automate that. You can do those via SurveyMonkey, right? You can just have a form that you send people every time they leave your company, or you can have a true system that every time a person is exiting your company and you terminate them, it automatically sends that out to them. So I definitely recommend exit interviews. Now, the big question is, why does any of that feedback matter? And how does that correlate to the hiring process, right? Well, hiring doesn't mean anything if you can't retain people, right? I like everyone to look at it as a bucket, right? If you have a bucket and you're constantly hiring people and you're pouring water into that bucket, right? You're pouring water into that bucket. But if you have a hole at the bottom of that bucket, you're never going to have a full bucket, right? You're never going to be properly or fully staffed if you constantly have that hole at the bottom of your bucket. So when you're being open and you're asking for honest, open feedback, and you build that trust with your staff, and you're being consistent on every time someone leaves your company, you're sending them an exit interview, and you're getting that feedback, and you're changing your company based on the feedback of people that didn't last long, or people that lasted a year or two and they just randomly leave, or whatever the reason may be. You're filling that hole in that bucket. So now every time you're adding new employees, or every time you're adding water to that bucket, they're actually staying there longer, and you're actually filling your bucket with that water. So, if you don't leave with anything else today, is make sure you're doing everything possible to not just hire correctly and, build this amazing automated hiring process and recruiting process. Make sure that you're filling that hole at the bottom of your bucket to make sure that you're not losing people as quickly or quicker than you're actually recruiting and adding people to your team, okay? So that's my third tip for you guys. That's my third tip. You've made it. Congratulations. Thanks so much for tuning in to my webinar for the ZenMaid Summit. I just want to thank Amar and his whole team for inviting me and allowing me to share just some of the advice that I have and how I built my 7-figure cleaning business over the past 10 years. And as promised, for everyone that has made it to this point, I want to, obviously, help you implement some of these things that we've talked about. So one of those things that I'm going to do is you'll find a link below that will provide you access to the hiring guide, the automation guide that I showed you for my recruiting 101 that I use for my cleaning business. And it will also have a blank template there so you can actually create one on your own. And then there's also going to be another resource that pretty much explains every single app that you could go ahead and download now to do this on your own without using HireWho. As I've mentioned before, you can do a lot of these things, if not all of them, directly within HireWho, or you could use other platforms too. And either way, it does not matter. We just want you, to get the tools that you need to make your hiring just a little bit better for your maid service. So those resources are below. I'm so glad that you guys have watched below. Leave comments. Definitely hit me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And I look to, chatting with you guys and hearing your feedback. Appreciate it so much. Thank you.